Today on the channel, it's the return of the Kyle Peterson Top 10 in honor of 52,000 subscribers here on this very YouTube channel. We're counting down my top 10 one-hit wonder wrestling figures of all time.
The spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Kyle here. Welcome back to the channel for another edition of the Kyle Peterson Top 10, a Thursday tradition here on the channel where we're doing a top 5 countdown and occasionally, like today, a top 10 countdown. And today, in honor of 52,000 subscribers, we're counting down my top 10 one-hit wonder wrestling figures of all time. And of course, gonna ask for your guys' list. This is my list. Put your list in the comments down below. But we've hit 52,000 subscribers. Slow march to 100,000, maybe in 10 years or something like that. Gonna need you guys to subscribe, and you gals too, especially you gals. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We got 2 YouTube channels with videos every single day. Patreon, YouTube channel memberships. There's a lot going on. Appreciate anybody that takes the time to subscribe to the channel. But every time we hit a 1,000 milestone, we do a top 10 countdown, and this is 52,000. So appreciate everybody that's subscribed and those that are gonna subscribe. How about that? But I'm talking one-hit wonder wrestling figures, a lot harder than you maybe think it is here. Had to do a little research, like guys like Butch Reed. I was thinking Butch Reed. Oh, I'll get Butch Reed, one of my favorite Gloob figures of all time. He's definitely got to be on the list. But then I did realize he had a Bendham. And I know, Todd McFarlane, I agree with you. Bendhams aren't wrestling figures. They're something else. They're something different. But I'm going to count them. I made this list extra challenging. They only had one figure, and they're going to be on this list here. We got a little bit of representation from a lot of different toy lines here, but it is a little bit hard because, especially in the Mattel era, in the Jakks era, if you were on TV, you got usually a couple of figures at minimum, but there's a few one and dones, and I could have probably done a top 20 list on this one, but I wanted to cut it off at 10 per the norm here on the channel. But we got some characters which I wouldn't be shocked to see more figures in the future, but some of these, like first time line, like the first one that comes to my brain is like a Joe Gacy. That one's coming out fairly soon. I'm not going to put him on the list because I think there's more Joe Gacys to come. Anybody that's fairly new, just getting their first figure, doesn't really count. These are classic characters from many years, had many chances to get a second figure, and for whatever reason, it never did happen. So that's where we're diving into, and that's where we're going to go with this review, and of course, or this countdown, more like it. But of course, starting at number 10, work our way to number 1, number 1 being my favorite one-hit wonder wrestling figure of all time. So without further ado, let's kick it off at number 10. All right, we kick off the top 10 one-hit wonders, of course, at number 10. And 10 is about as deep of a cut as the Mattel line ever gave us. But I do think for the moment in time, it definitely worked. I don't ever see us getting this character ever again in any wrestling toy line. Who are we talking about? Well, we're going to the Bunny. Never forget Adam Rose and the Bunny. And this was one of the biggest peg warmers for multiple years. But the minute I saw this, I knew I had to have it. It's different. It's special. It could go as an Easter Bunny display. It's a moment in time in the WWE where there was a wrestler as the Bunny without any payoff. But this is the only time we got the Bunny. I don't see it ever happening again in the future. But the Bunny is going to come in hot at number 10. Countdown continues at number 9. And number 9, we go to a bit of a forgotten toy line in the grand scheme of things, but one that's got a lot of charm, especially to the LJN generation. But I got to tell you guys, when these came out for the first time, I went to the highest of highs to the lowest of lows because they weren't quite the LJNs I was looking for. Similar in concept, but not in execution. Where are we going at number 9? Well, we're going to a character that this is his only figure per the list, and a guy that really seemed to be all over WCW television for quite some time. Now, I was a little kid at the time, and maybe he was only around for a year or so, but it felt like 10 years. He was on every single TV show, of course, WCW Saturday Night back then. Who are we talking about at number 9? Well, we're talking to the Pitbull. We're talking about Craig Pitbull Pittman right here, and if you guys remember his time in WCW, you'll never forget it, but we've never had another figure of him ever in any toy line. I could see him being one of those ones that we get maybe from Club KWK down the line, or maybe Grapplers and Gimmicks. I don't know how hard he'd be to sign, but I think there is enough remembrance of the Pitbull. Maybe you guys tell me in the comments here, but Craig Pittman coming in hot at number 9. We're feeling great at, of course, number 8. And number 8, we go to my childhood toy line, the LJNs of old, where I cut my teeth in wrestling figures. And I don't know about you guys and gals, I guess, if you were around in the LJN era. A lot of us had LJN of characters we didn't really know about. Now, maybe it was just because of your age or whatever. Back in the day, toy lines sat around for years sometimes. There would be LJNs for years upon years that were just warming the pegs. They would never get rid of them. You'd see it with G.I. Joe. You'd see it with He-Man across the board. But at number 8 here was one that I got what I wasn't familiar with when I was a kid until I went back and rented some VHSs and stuff. Who is it at number 8? Well, it's that Oregon sensation, a guy sitting in jail currently. It's one Billy Jack Haynes, a very popular name, of course, especially if you were out in the Northwest. But he did have a cup of coffee, of course, in the WWF. WrestleMania 3 maybe being his biggest achievement. You guys tell me in the comments. But as a kid, I had this one. And if you were a kid out there, you're trying to buy wrestling figures, you ended up with a lot of these guys that just hung around on the pegs. And that's where Billy Jack was for me. A very good figure, though, and a figure I always enjoyed as a kid because very playability, a lot of playability, I should say, with him here. With the punches, the clotheslines, a lot of stuff he could do. So Billy Jack Haynes, very fondly remembered in LJN, maybe just not as much in wrestling. He's coming in at number 8. The countdown rolls on to number 7. And number 7, we got a little bit of a theme. We're back to the WWF LJN line. And this was a figure every single one of my friends had. Now, I think when LJN came out with this figure, they thought maybe he would have a bigger career than he did. But man, he had shorter than a cup of coffee. We've never got another figure. I don't know if I've ever seen a full match of this guy. I feel like I saw a YouTube match where I was just like, wow, I'd never seen him actually wrestle. But this guy had to have been one of the smallest amount of times in the WWF back in the day to actually get a wrestling figure. And maybe you had this one in your collection as well. Who are we talking about? Well, we're talking about Arcidi, the big strong man here. A bit of a jobber in my playing days because I didn't know anything about him, but you want to fill out that roster. You want to fill out some characters, and he was definitely one in my collection. And this one, amazing shape, about fresh off the card as fresh off the card gets here for Arcidi. Not very well thought of many years later, mostly forgotten for most people. Once again, I could see maybe Grapplers and Gimmicks or Club KWK jumping in on a Arcidi. I think enough times passed. It's time for a Arcidi reunion. We need a new figure. And I would dare I say, more people know him from his LJN figure than his actual wrestling career, which is always interesting to see something like that. But Arcidi coming in at number 7. Getting close to the halfway point, and I can't believe we've never had a figure of this character outside of this one. And this just came out, 2 years ago, Todd McFarlane? A very, try to pick my words here carefully. A confusing company released this one here. What are we talking about, number 6? Well, we're going to our friends at Powertown. Of course, Powertown, maybe you've heard of them. We're going to one Verne Gagne. Yes, Verne Gagne, one of the pillars of early wrestling, I guess early TV wrestling. Verne Gagne was on the lips of everybody back in the day, especially if you were from the Midwest with the AWA territory, him wrestling in Chicago, all over the place. Quite the athlete once upon a time. And of course, his son, Greg Gagne, part of our friends over there at Powertown. But man, I can't believe it took this long to get a Verne Gagne figure. You think back, why wasn't he in the Classic Superstars? How did we never get a Mattel figure? A little bit wild if you sit and think about it. But Verne Gagne came to us from Powertown. Say what we want, and we've said a lot. We've said a lot, haven't we, Todd? We've said a lot about Powertown. But I do enjoy their figures. And Series 1, through all the pain, through all the struggles, finally came through. And this Verne Gagne is a fun one. Definitely needed to be on the countdown. And for me, comes in at number 6. We've hit the halfway point of the countdown. We're at number 5. You got your list together. Make sure you put it in the comments down below. And make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and my other YouTube channel. 52,000 subscribers for this video. Let's get to 53. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. And better yet, grab your kid's phone and make them subscribe too. There you go. Pass it on to the next generation. But here we are at number 5. And number 5 feeling a lot by number 6. It could have been a pick'em for a lot of people, but for me, I like this character more than Verne Gagne. Who are we talking about at number 5? Well, once again, we go to Powertown. This time we go to another pillar of early TV wrestling. we go to the legendary Thesz, and I'll always put Thesz above Gagne for me. I'll probably put Thesz at the top of the list of that era's champions just because the Thesz Hall of Fame being fairly close to where I do live and been a part of that for decades at this point, seeing a lot of wrestling shows, seeing the museum, seeing a lot of the Thesz's personal belongings and things like that over the year, make you feel like you're a little closer to the character, even if you never got to meet the guy. That's what I would say there. But it was very cool to get a Thesz figure. He's coming in number 5, and I'm shocked we haven't got more Theszes. Very similar to Verne Gagne. You think we should have got some more here. But that's it. Thesz coming in hot, extra hot, that is, at number 5. The number 4 spot in the countdown, and this is a figure, man, I wish I had when I was a little kid. I did not even know this figure existed until many years later when I got the internet for the first time, and I looked up a few things and tried to find out some figure mysteries from my childhood, and I came across this, and my mind was immediately blown as I never saw this wave at any stores. Like I said, didn't know it existed until I got the internet. What are we talking about here at number 4? Well, we're going to Hasbro. We're going to the WWF Green Card Series. We're going to one Bart Gunn, not Billy Gunn, just Bart Gunn. We've never got another Bart Gunn, and this one very timely, very topical with us just recently unboxing the Smoking Gunns Billy Gunn on the channel. Hopefully Mattel can get us a Bart Gunn in the future. We found a workaround that'll work for now, but man, oh man, there's some meat on the Bart Gunn bone from Mattel. Obviously the Smoking Gunns, and then you got to get the Brawl for All version, and I'm sure there's another version in there we could take along the way. But a guy that seemingly pretty much walked away from wrestling for the most part, but a very hard to find figure, a very rare figure, and the only Bart Gunn figure as of right now, the Hasbro, comes in at number 4. Down to the final 3 in the one-hit wonder countdown. And of course, get your list together, put it in the comments down below. Take some research though, that's for sure. But number 3, we go to the Mattel Elite line. And I'm once again shocked we never got a figure of this character from at least the Jakks Classic Superstars line, if nothing else. Who are we talking about? Well, we're going to the Walmart exclusive, I believe it was once upon a time. We're going to Pat Patterson, and it's a 2-in-1 figure, which is pretty cool. You got old man Pat Patterson, but if you disrobe Pat Patterson, you do get some wrestling trunks under here, and you do get a wrestling old-timey Pat Patterson. So very cool. We also got a Gerald Briscoe, but he'd had many other figures over the years. But man, I can't believe this is the only Pat Patterson figure we ever did receive. I think a guy just kind of bad luck, just missed the LJN era. Obviously, they weren't going to make a Hasbro. They weren't going to make a lot of Jakks until maybe we could have got him in the Attitude Era, but it never happened for whatever reason. And shocked it never happened in the Classic Superstars, but we did get it from Mattel. Be interested to see if we ever get another Pat Patterson figure ever again. I don't know, but he comes in at number 3 in my top 10 countdown. Countdown carries on, and we're finally separating the men from the boys, or as Todd said to me, the men from the little people. That's what we're doing here. And we're at number 2. We're going to Boss Fight Studios. We're going to their MLW wrestling line from a figure that stole my heart and never let go, going all the way back to last year. What's the number 2 figure? Well, it is my boy. It is the Microman. Something about a little person wrestler always steals my heart. Always a big fan of that. And Microman, as of right now, only one official figure. Wouldn't be shocked to see more in the future. You would have to think. A guy like this, it's like printing money. But man, oh man, I like this figure. So different, so cool, so unique. I am here for that. Microman coming in at number 2, which means, like a young Highlander, there can only be one. What is my number 1 one-hit wonder wrestling figure of all time? Well, stay tuned. Here we are. We're at the number 1 one-hit wonder wrestling figure of all time as voted by me, of course. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel once again. That's what this video is about with the top 10, hitting the 52,000 subscriber milestone. Let's get to 60. Let's get to 100, and then we can call it a day. We can retire at 100. We'll see what happens when that happens. If I can make it that long, I don't know. The way things are going, you never know. But this is a special top 10 video here today. Appreciate all the support on the channel. So make sure you do subscribe. Of course, you guys know the drill. But here we are at number 1. And I have to think I'm the only one with this at number 1. Maybe somebody will surprise me. But a selfish reason this is at number 1, as this was my first ever wrestling figure. The first ever wrestling figure I ever picked up in my entire life. Of course, you're a little kid, you're just getting into wrestling. You know there's wrestling figures, so you know Friday night, it's the night we go to Toys R Us, and you're just sitting there, who am I going to get? Who am I going to get to start my fig fed off? And what guys am I going to get? Because you can't start a wrestling figure collection with only one figure, unless you're me, unfortunately, as they only had one figure there. And I said, well, I got to start somewhere. So I picked this one up. This was my first ever wrestling figure, the one that caused this descent into madness. And I can't remember who my second one was. I have to sit and think about it. But I went home that night with one figure, a character of a wrestler I have never heard of in my life. I've seen a handful of matches. I would love to see Mattel come out with this character, specifically in the Coliseum collection, just kind of bookend my life in some ways. Who is the number one spot on my one-hit wonder list? Well, you guessed it. We head to Australia. We head to Outback Jack. Of course, the Australia phenom, the greatest wrestler to ever come from Australia. What? Rhea Ripley? Maybe. Buddy Murphy? Maybe. The Kangaroos, deep cut. But no, Outback Jack, an all-time favorite of mine just because of that story. It being my first ever wrestling figure, it's got a special spot near and dear to my heart. I know a lot of you out there are like, well, I got the Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan the first time. I'm like, man, you immediately had a hot feud. You immediately had matches you could do. You had characters you had heard of. Not little Kyle. He got Outback Jack of all people. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It's part of the pain. It's part of the struggle. And you got to remember where you came from. And maybe your first wrestling figure was Outback Jack. But I somehow doubt that there. But just very sentimental reason for me here. And like I said, I would love to see him as part of the Coliseum collection. Once again, maybe the Grapplers and Gimmicks, the KWKs of the world, the figure collections, Zombie Sailor. Somebody could get us a modern day Outback Jack. It's time. It's time for another Outback Jack figure. Let's do it. Let's get it done. I would love to see it. And we'll see what happens in the future there. But Outback Jack, easily the number one spot in my top 10 list here. But I'd be very interested to hear your top 10. Of course, you got to do some research on these things and try to find out, okay, well, this guy had a bendum or whatever. So you got to watch out for that kind of stuff. But I'd be interested to hear your list in the comments down below. And of course, once again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Check out the Patreon. Check out YouTube channel memberships. Follow me at SirPaul64 on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, TheKylePetersonShow at gmail.com. Of course, that is my weekly podcast, The Kyle Peterson Show, where we talk all kinds of stuff over there. So make sure you're headed over to The Kyle Peterson Show, wherever your podcasts are found, with video cast on YouTube. So for another edition of The Kyle Peterson Top 10, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.
Well, are we going to dance or are we going to play?
We're going to